heard as of late that a approach has been made by a club for Gianluca Scamacca, and it's been swiftly denied by the Hammers and David Moyes. Now, the questions I'm going to be asking tonight is, should we let Scamacca go? Will we let Scamacca go? And does he have a proper future in claret and blue? I hope you are all well. Got a couple of guests joining me. Firstly, Mike, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, good to hear. Good to hear. And also, we are going to be joined by Nigel as well. Nigel, how are you, mate?
You're right. How you doing?
Nigel?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. So I hope you're all well watching the chat. So Scamacca tonight. Now, big sort of news, and there's been some speculation as of late around the sort of future of Gianluca Scamacca. Now, we've heard that he's passed and he's agreed personal terms with Roma over in Italy. But West Ham have went no and shut the door on it and said, we don't want Scamacca to leave this summer. Now, personal terms are agreed in all sorts of different ways and at times with clubs, and of course it's down to whether they can pay the money and get the deal over the line. And West Ham have been quite firm through the majority of this window so far with Rice and with this deal, and said no, we're not interested in a loan deal. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, for whatever I think about David Sullivan, I mean, he is a businessman, isn't he? So far, what he's done, other than coming out and saying what he did on TalkSport so soon, which I thought was an absolute, there was no need of it, but that's him in it, full stop. But otherwise, so far, it looks like they're dealing with it quite sensibly. Scamacca, for me, I don't think he's really had a proper chance. No. We've seen what Paqueta could do, but that didn't happen straight away, did it? Sometimes it takes a while for these players that come in from different leagues to settle in the Premier League. And I think there's a player there, and we could have another Haller situation, which we don't want, do we? We don't want another guy to disappear from here. Okay, yeah, sometimes a player, he is not suited to the Premier League, full stop. But I think Scamacca is. It's just, how do we play him and how he gets used? That's the problem.
And with Scamacca as well, Nigel, we've got an issue here where we're not sure what the player wants, but West Ham have been quite clear and have got no interest in loaning out a player that we paid 30 million plus for last summer. Do you think that's the right sort of stance for West Ham to take?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, we can't go loaning out £30 million players. He's a good player. There is a player in there, and, I think that he's just got to, if we swap the team around, if Rice goes, we swap the team around and we give this guy 6 months, we can have a good look at him and see what he's about. I mean, you've got to remember, he's a young man and he's come to a different country. He doesn't speak a lot of English. He's getting left on the bench. I mean, that's so demoralising. It's going to affect your game. If he was to get some good game time and a good strike partner, and, I think there is definitely a player there. So, no, we 100% we shouldn't be loaning the guy out. I think that's a ridiculous thing to do.
And I think as well, it's been a very stop-start sort of campaign in his first in East London. Mike, there's been several factors from injuries to the wrong system to frustrations all round with the player. And I think there's frustrations for the fan base as well, because, you two have both mentioned it there, and Michael, come to you with, we know there's a player there. We waited 3 seasons to buy a new striker after we let go Haller in January, 2 or 3 years ago. We finally got one in, and we're left with the same issues.
Yeah, we are. I mean, we've got different types of strikers, haven't we? With Ings, Scamacca, and Antonio, but I think they could all be used in different setups in different ways. And not like Nigel said, he's not been given a proper chance. We don't really know what he can do yet. I mean, playing in the right system with him, things are going to change next year, aren't they? The dynamic of the team is going to change a little bit if Rice goes. I mean, players, we're going to have to fill his position, but the dynamic of the team may change a little bit. It might not be for the best, but things may change in the setup of the team. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And players like Scamacca might get more of a chance. I'd like to see Muamba game time. We've seen the kid Marshall. I mean, there's bits about them, but they're not ready to be thrown in yet all the time. But I want to see them given chances. But you can't rely on them as being backups for your strikers. We need 3 top strikers. You do, especially playing in Europe. So I mean, I can't see us letting him go. There's no way we can.
No, and I think as well, Sullivan will probably be looking at it thinking, going, old horses. I paid 30 million quid for this bloke last summer, and now there's interest in loaning him out, which has no benefit to us whatsoever. And as Mike said, Nigel, we've got a player that hasn't really been able to get going, and that's down to many reasons. And if we can get him playing next season, if he wants to be here and if he wants to play for West Ham, we just need to try and get the best out of him.
Well, I think with Rice is going to go. I believe he's going to go. So this team's going to have to be totally restructured, and I think that he should be part of it. I think that we bring some more players in. He's more likely to get a bit more comfortable, than sitting on the bench with all the regulars that were playing. If other new players come in, I mean, you look at someone like we're talking about Harvey Barnes and Ward-Prowse. I mean, Ward-Prowse is a really good player, a technical player with who can play other players in. Barnes is fast, gets down, can deliver good crosses, and this could be fantastic for Scamacca. It could completely change the team, But like I say, I'd want to give Scamacca a go. I mean, he wasn't scoring all the goals in Italy, for fun, was he?
Exactly.
Yeah. There is a good player in it, but like I say, we know after 6 months, we've got other players in, and he's not doing, he's not, playing well with them players. Then we know it could be him. But like I say, he's been playing in a team. Moyes had a team of regulars that Scamacca didn't fit. So if we took Rice out of the equation and brought some more players, and we're restructuring the team, he could then fit into it. But like I said, that's my thought on it anyway.
The issue we've got there is Moyes put in a lot of players last summer, a lot that confused me, a lot of deals and players that confused and sort of dictated the way that I thought we were going to play. And in the end, that was sort of proven right. And a few players have managed to excel towards the back end of the season. But, it's all if buts and maybes with it, Mike, is, if we can play this way, but can we do this? But the overriding factor of it is does the guy want to stay at West Ham? Has the guy got the patience to give it another go?
Yeah, I think, obviously, if the lad doesn't want to play, there's no good keeping him there. But I think he should be given more encouragement in saying, right, we're going to give you these next 5 or 6 games, get out there and give it your best shot. Like Nigel saying, if we buy players like Ward-Prowse and Barnes, maybe the delivery would be better. Don't get me wrong. Bowen had spells in the season where, as a wide man, he wasn't playing that well. He came back great at the end of the season. Ben Rama, he had spells where he was good, but quite often his crossing was not great. He'd get into good positions and the ball was either too far over the back post or, to the near, not even over the near post, not over the first man. I mean, maybe if the crossing and the delivery was a bit better, we could see what this guy could do, because you put the ball on his head and 9 times out of 10, he's going to hit the back of the net with it. Yeah. But he hasn't had good delivery while he was playing. He's had injuries. Let's see, if he still wants to stay and he's given I'd like to see him given a chance. Let's put it like that.
And if we do see those sort of hints we saw at the beginning of the season, and Mike just mentioned it there, is that we were getting a couple of good balls into the box, and he was putting into the back of the net, especially in Europe. He scored some quite valuable goals, near the start of our Conference League campaign in the group stages, especially him and Paqueta got some quite nice link up towards the start of the season, Nigel, and that's just what we need to get in. And no matter what strikers walk through the door in recent years, there's the dreaded stat of how many failed strikers under the Sullivan regime we've had. No striker has found it easy to score goals at West Ham for donkey's years, right? But we need to try and find a decent fit here somehow, some way.
Well, I think his link up, if you watch him as a footballer, I think his link up play is very, very good. I think he plays off of players really, really well. And we haven't been doing that. I mean, like you say, when he was with Paqueta, Paqueta's a good player and he can read the game well. And he did score some goals when he was linking up with Paqueta. So, and I think if Rice goes, Paqueta's going to take this. So Paqueta's going to be the main man in this team. He is, because everyone's looking at Declan Rice. But did you notice towards the end of the season, Rice hasn't been fantastic, mate, but Paqueta has.
Mhm.
Paqueta's been outstanding. You watch the bloke when he runs back and he tackles and he gets back. He was, if you put them up against each other tackling wise, I bet Paqueta is on a level with Rice. I really
Yeah.
do think that, because he's
Definitely, he's strong on the ball.
He gets stuck in, and
Yeah.
also he's got great vision, and and I think. I think him and Scamacca could be good. And if you chucked another couple of players in the mix, it's an exciting. But unless you do it, you're not going to know. But what I do know is if we keep the same team, we're just going to be the same as always. Let's face it, everyone's saying Mickey Mouse Cup. All right. It's not brilliant, the Europa League. It's a European trophy. But, we weren't playing the likes of who we played in the Europa League last year. And I don't think if we'd have been in the Europa League this year, I don't think we'd have won it. I honestly think that. And I think we're going to struggle next year with Brighton always, we don't want to be playing them, do we, in the Europa League? And I just think, they're, Liverpool, there's some good teams in there. And, if we
the one
carry
thing
on,
we can't forget though is there is a sort of barrier, because we can't be in the same group as another English side, so we won't face Brighton until at least the last 16. So let's hope, fingers crossed. And to be fair, I hope they do well in the competition, but I hope we don't have to play them, because otherwise it's complete curtains for us.
I'm really excited about it, because I've mentioned it before. I lived in France for a couple of years, and I used to come across all the time, obviously bringing stuff back across. And I used to go to, maybe once a month I'd be able to get to a West Ham game. This was like, quite a long time ago. But when I lived out there, Ren were my local team and I had a season ticket. So, for about 18 months, I watched Ren regularly in the ground. So I know the ground really well. And yeah, it'd be nice to get them, I hope we draw them, because I think we can. I think we can get them in the group stages.
We got them in a pre-season friendly as well, I think.
Yeah, I'll be going to that, because literally, my dad lives about, I don't know, 35 minutes from Rennes, and that's where I used to live, about 40 minutes from Rennes. So, yeah. So I've, yeah, be good. And obviously, Gerd used to play for him, didn't he? I'll tell you how long ago it was I used to watch Rennes. Right, there was a Breton, what's called the Breton Derby, and it was two teams. It was Rennes and a team called Guingamp. Yeah, and in goal for Rennes was Peter Cech, and up front for Guingamp was Florent Malouda and Didier Drogba.
Proper. Oh, there
And
we
it
go.
was €6 to get in.
No, that is what you like to see. Let's see, we got watching in the chat site. Evening to everybody. Sharky, hope you well, mate. Sean, hope you well, mate. Scamacca will go alone in my opinion. Never looked like he wanted to be there. To me, Moyes' style isn't the best for a striker. David says his value can double, so definitely can't loan him. Moyes' style does not favour strikers, so could see strikers easily becoming unhappy. Sharky says if he leaves, then we need to get some money for him and not just let him go out on loan. Kent, happy well, mate. Scamacca needs bodies to get around him, getting close to him and feed him. Strikers are only as good as support and supply given. I mean, the only striker, and I'll put that in inverted commas, that has sort of succeeded to an extent under this sort of regime is Mikel Antonio, and he's somebody that feeds off scraps, who doesn't get a lot, who has got to sort of forge and carve his own sort of his own way through things, and you can't expect a striker like Scamacca to do that. We need players that are going to creatively pick up the ball and get in and around him and give him some options, because Antonio is very much one of his own. He's, you don't see many Mikel Antonios out there. He's a peculiar striker, just to sort of say the least. And you just aren't going to get the same out of Scamacca. And I thought with all the scouting or just knowledge that this backroom staff and Moyes have got of football, even like that, then I'm sure they wouldn't expect Scamacca to be doing this. But that just seemed to be the story of the season, which completely and utterly baffled me. Sean says benefit to loaning is getting the wages off the wage bill. Well, it's not my money, so I don't care. They can do what they like. Frema says evening. I hope you are well. Frema says so difficult being an out and out striker at West Ham, always has been, no matter the manager. Antonio suits Moyes, and he's probably one of the very few strikers in the world that will suit the way Moyes wants to play, and they come very few and far between. And when we sign a proper striker, we look perplexed, Mike.
Yeah, it's just the way we play, and it's the way we set up, and it's the way we play. And I agree with some of those comments that maybe he doesn't suit it, but we brought different players in to try and play in a different manner. And towards the end of the season, there was little bits, and little shiny little bits of that happening. It didn't, don't go back to the final, but that wasn't a great game. But hey, who cares? We won it. Damn it. Yeah. But I mean, there was times in games towards the end of the season where we were playing some good football. We were passing the ball quite nicely, and putting strikers in, in a different way than just humping it up to Antonio and then getting around him. So I mean, it's. There was just little chinks. That's all I can say of the way we're changing the way we play. But don't get me wrong. David Moyes has got his way, and 99 times out of 100, that's how it's going to be.
No, that is it. That is it. Let's take some of your comments. I had no idea what happened. Everything just froze, all shut down. But it seems like you two held the fort quite nicely for about a minute whilst my laptop had a bit of a brain freeze. But Sean says Paqueta probably leaves next summer if he improves a bit more nature of the beast. Well, he's definitely staying this season because he's said that on an interview. See you next season. But I don't know. We'll think about the summer after, but he's definitely going to be in next season. Sean, I can guarantee you of that. I'll be incredibly surprised if Paqueta's not a West Ham player next season. Kent says Paqueta is 3 steps ahead of Antonio and other great brains, and that's the sort of issue here, that we've got such a contrast between these players, because Kent's right there, Nigel, where Paqueta, he's just ahead of all of them. Like, some of them are like, what the flip's going on here? Whilst he's doing skills and tricks and threading ball throughs, the rest of them are like, flipping out, who's this,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I want to give the guy a chance. I think that, like I say, Paqueta's going to be the main man next season for sure. And his vision is next level. I think Scamacca, you got to remember, we have to remember is Scamacca ain't fast, right? So it's no good trying to, let him get the ball and then run past the player. And it's not going to happen. He's a player that's going to play off of players, and he's a clever player. He can strike a ball really, really well. We've seen that from anywhere around the box. He's good in the air. He's got a great touch, and he's everything that Antonio isn't.
Yeah.
So he's not a player who's going to feed on scraps. You need to feed him. You need to give him the ball. You need to play off of him. And I think with the right players around him, I think he could be a quality striker for us. I really do. But no, I hated it last season seeing him. You've got to remember, he's got no confidence. Last season, I remember seeing him sit on the line, and he sat there. There was a picture that zoomed in on him, and he was just sat there, and he was so depressed. It was towards the end of a game, and he's not even, he's not getting on. And mate, he came to this club with probably aspirations of, saw us the previous season getting into Europe, and then he's thinking now, God, I can't even get in this team. Do you know what I mean? And another country, I can't speak the language properly. I'm not getting a game of football. He needs a boost. And you know what? These new players, if we get them, and a change of tactics could see him become the player that we thought he was.
Yeah. No, for sure. Rich, hope you well, mate. Scamacca to Roma, Antonio De Forest and Rice to Arsenal. And that sort of signifies a complete rebuild then, because you've got the Rice who's the midfield man, you've got Antonio who's the striker, and the other striker, Scamacca, as well. So that would sort of symbolise there would need to be a dramatic rebuild to an extent, but sort of contrast and change in the way we play, because we won't sign players this summer that are like Rice and like Antonio. So there's going to have to be a change somewhere down the line that will change us, and there's no sort of doubt about that. Jay says we need a clinical forward that can blossom to Paqueta's style of play. Kent says around 2003ish, Nigel, we had lined Drogba up to sign the summer, but we was relegated. I don't know. Could you imagine Didier Drogba in a West Ham shirt?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
diving all over the place, over at Upton Park, diving around here.
Rich said, right, Rich has got it all sorted here. Rich went to 59 games last season, I think, so he's ready for some attacking football. He said Bowen can play up front alongside Mubama, Downs and Paqueta in the middle, Benny, Fornals and Cornet ahead of those two, and a Gerd, Zuma, Kera back three, all-out attack. Rich, you want some attacking football to entertain you next season? We'll start it off at Bournemouth away in the sun, hopefully a replica of what happened down there this season when we thrashed them 4-0. Rich wants goals, he wants attacking, he wants exciting football, and I think that's what we all want. I think that is what we all want. What Shark says, what is happening with YouTube in regards to the monetization? Well, I could talk about it all night, to be honest, but hopefully I can reappeal to it again at the end of June. So yeah, it's a long story, but who knows if it'll end? But moving on, the other sort of topic I want to discuss tonight, and there's been a few rumours about Rice replacements, which was evidently going to come, but Sullivan seems to be standing firm currently about who and where Rice goes to and what the amount of money is that comes through the door. Arsenal haven't submitted the second bid that that we've expected them to submit of around £91 million, and West Ham are thoroughly and consistently waiting for a Chelsea or a Man City to come in to start the bidding war. Now, of course, we know it's quite obvious that there's a 90% chance that Rice will leave West Ham this summer, which means we'd only let him go, fingers crossed, if we've got a replacement lined up. Now, there's been talks of three midfielders. The first one's Ward-Prowse. The second one's Palhinha of Fulham, and the third one is a bit of an outsider. It's Edson Alvarez from Ajax, who's slightly younger, slightly more unknown, and we're going to discuss all three. Now, two Premier League proven players, if you could call them that, Mike, in Palhinha and Ward-Prowse. What sort of player do you think we need to be going for?
I think we need Palhinha. I really do. I've watched him a few games for Fulham, and he is lively in the middle of the park. There's no doubt about that. He's one I really like. Ward-Prowse, yeah, he's tidy on the ball, but he's no Declan Rice. But then you've got that delivery, which then, do you know what I mean, is another string to the bow. The other guy from Ajax, only watched a little bit of him. Yeah, up and coming sort of player. Because what you're talking about, a 28 and a 27-year-old with the other two, aren't you?
Well, yeah, that's the issue that I wanted to discuss as well, because you've got 28 and 27 respectively with Ward-Prowse and Palhinha. We've already got one of the most aging squads in the Premier League. You look at Edson Alvarez, who's 24 years old, who's already played in the Champions League as a defensive midfielder, scored a couple of goals in the last few years in the Champions League. He's consistently played in European competitions for 4 or 5 years now, and that's the difference there. Whether we go for more of an unknown or a Premier League proven, it's going to not last as long. I've heard £50 million for Ward-Prowse, which is just off the table. Completely no for me. Palhinha, I've heard a similar amount of money, which is interesting to an extent. Nigel, what path do you think we will take? A more unknown, younger, or proven, older, probably more expensive as well, sort of Palhinha or Ward-Prowse? What are your thoughts, Nigel?
I think Moyes will go if he's going to go for a midfielder to replace Rice, he's going to go for someone who's already experienced, because that's what he's like. I would personally, put Flynn Downs in there and give him I'd give him a couple of months, because that's what we bought him for. Do you know what I mean? What because I think he could turn into a good player. I mean, Rice wasn't always as good as he is now, was he? He wasn't he was good, but he flourished, didn't he? The more he played, so I think maybe keep Downs, and we should be buying it. We should be looking at scoring goals. That's what we should be doing. It's all right, defending and having a good goal. But we should be looking at scoring goals. I want to see some more attacking flair, but I'm not interested in more defensive midfielders. The defence is there to defend. Midfield's there to chase the ball around and win the ball and get the ball out the park. That's what I want to see. Alvarez, yeah, he's all right. He's not a bad player, but you're not replacing Declan Rice with him, are you? I don't think anyone that he brings in can replace Declan Rice. Yeah, no one's going to replace him. I think he'll end up going for 100 million, something like that, which he's worth. If Grealish is worth 100 million, Rice is worth more. I just think that, you can't replace him. So let's just change the way we play. We don't want to replace Declan Rice. We've had Declan Rice in there, who's one of the best defensive midfielders in the league. We still nearly got relegated. I think we're missing the point. Do you know what I mean? We could go and get a load of money, buy some really, really good attacking players, start playing a different style of football. That's what I'd personally like to see.
That's interesting because I think people have said that with the Rice money we get, some people have mentioned that they want us to sign 2 defensive-minded midfield players, so potentially one, potentially two of the 3 that I've mentioned there, and try and not create a big gap with Declan Rice not there, or just sign one to sort of fill the gap and not leave us too short in that area, and try and focus that money, as Nigel said, on maybe shipping out some of the attacking players that I don't think is good enough. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if Cornet went this summer. It really wouldn't surprise me. And getting some more quality in. Harvey Barnes is a name that's been discussed on a number of occasions. So, we're going to have a big bundle of money here. And after spending 150 million last summer, the way we take this is so crucial and so interesting, the way we're going to go about this, because I don't know what we'll do, Mike. I really don't.
I think we have actually got to sign some proven Premier League players, to be fair. But also, we've got to remember, we've got a lot of good youngsters in that youth squad. And I'd like to see some of them get a chance. How did Declan Rice get to where he was? I know maybe he's a one-off, full stop. But there is some talent in that youth team. And I'd just like to see one or two of them, be given a chance to show what they can do. But we also need to sign some proven Premier League midfield players. Declan Rice is going to go. We probably need 3 players to replace him. 3 players. And like Nigel just said, that might mean we have to play in a different style, in a different way. Hey, you know what I mean? And Nigel said it as well. We finished 14th in the league, and we had Declan Rice, who's arguably, I think he's the second best defensive midfielder in the Premier League. There's if you look around at any other teams, he's better than Partey. You know what I mean? Even when we played Man United, he bullied
Casemiro. Yeah.
He bullied Casemiro and shoved Eriksen all over the place. He absolutely wiped all 3 of them out of the park that day. And you look around at other teams, he's much better than anyone at Tottenham. He's much better than anyone other than Man City. He is the best defensive midfielder in the Premier League.
No, and I think
we've still struggled. So, what does that tell you? We need 3 or 4 players to replace him.
So maybe the issue there isn't the holes in midfield. Maybe the issue is I think personally, the issue is still there with the midfield, because I've stood there on so many occasions and I've said to people, whether I'm at home and sat here or in the stands, I've said, we're the only club in this league to go through a Premier League season and play a 3-man midfield, and the amount of holes and gaps we still manage to create. And I know, to an extent, you could probably say we played with a 2-man midfield because Souček's jogged around the place for the majority of this season and not really done anything, right? And we've left ourselves, we're playing 3 men in midfield, and with Rice pretty much, because Paqueta has been progressing forward quite a lot. He's come back at some points as well, but the gaps are just everywhere. And teams, especially at Brighton away, I stood there and went, they were just playing the ball straight through the middle of the park with so many gaps there. So maybe the issue needs to be more about solidifying that midfield more up and the gap we have, because the way we play, Nigel, is that we have Antonio who's up there on his own, and there's such a big gap between him and the midfield. We failed to get the ball from midfield up to Antonio enough and effectively enough to cause teams problems, because the way we play in the Premier League with the players we've got simply doesn't work. I think we've just got to strip it back and start again, especially if Rice goes.
Right. I'm going to go back to something you said previously, Jake, and you said about people were saying, we need to get in a couple of defensive midfield players. Right. Are these the same people that every week are complaining that we're too defensive? And do you know what? This is the more point, and you're saying about the gaps in the midfield. Yeah, because if you notice, when we play football, when you watch other teams, they put it through the middle. I watched the team the whole of last season get the ball and continuously try and get it wide to Bowen or Ben Rama. We never, ever played it through the centre of the park, ever. And everyone just played right through the middle of us, and everyone knew exactly what we was going to do. They was like, right, Mark Benrahma, Mark Bowen. There's nothing coming through that middle, and all we done, right, you never had Rice on occasion would carry the ball. But what you need in this team is someone who's going to pick the ball up and go through the middle of people. There's no good signing those defensive players. If you want to moan at Moyes being defensive, don't sign more defensive players. Sign attacking players. Simple.
But do you think with Rice leaving, we can't go and not play with a defensive midfielder? We need to have somebody there that does sweep that back line, because they're not good enough to be left restricted.
Yeah, but Jake, if you've got one player sitting in the back, you're playing 5 across the back, and then Declan Rice at the back. You're playing 6 at the back. So basically, you're just inviting pressure continuously. You're not putting any pressure on any other team. When did Declan Rice ever put pressure on another team? When did he ever get the ball? On occasion when he drove forward, he's brilliant. Why didn't he do that all the time? If he'd done it all the time, it'd have been much better, but we didn't. We had him sitting. You had 5 across the back. Our full-backs weren't bombing forward, our wing-backs. They was all sitting there and just passing out wide to Bowen. Bowen Benrahma, like that. Nothing through the middle. Rice was just sitting there picking the ball up. Well, then we're just playing football in our own half. That's all we done. So you watched Man City the other day. I watched them. I sat to Una and I went, look at that. There's 5 players in the opposition half pushing and pressing. Whenever we play, we got Antonio out there on his own, and everyone else is just sitting there. And the 2 boys, Bowen and Benrahma, are great players, but they're just sitting wide. And when the ball goes to them, they've only got one place to go, and that's back inside. So
because as well, what you've got is, when we look out to the wings and, there's no sort of effectiveness out there with Bowen and Benrahma because they're just being shut down. There's no options there. When we do play it through to Antonio, Mike, he's a player where he's looking for the foul and he'll flop himself over or he'll lose it anyway. And Aguiza's got no chance at all. So whichever way we go, it's not working.
No, that's right. And I don't know if Moyes can do that. I don't know if he can change the way we play. But like I said, there was little chinks of it. You could see little bits and pieces of the way we were trying to play a bit more football at the end of the season. And I just wish we'd have a better crack at it. Last year we started terribly, and it put us on the back foot. Those, having Man City and then Forest away. I mean, it's just
quite unfortunate at the start of this season. To be fair, barring Bournemouth.
I mean, that Forest game we absolutely battered them and then lost 1-0. I mean, we didn't have a lot of luck. We didn't get out of the blocks. We were winning games in Europe. They were much easier games. I know it's like playing championship teams, to be totally honest, a lot of the time. But then we're going back into a Premier League game and then we were getting beat, And I think this year, we need to get out of the blocks and then maybe we can have a crack at getting back to what we were the 2 years before. And confidence is a big thing, mine. Confidence is a big thing. I'm going to
be honest with it as well. I could see a sort of similar thing because barring the Bournemouth game in August, we've got Brighton right off. We've got Luton away, which if you put into consideration, I'm not sure what's happening with their stadium. It could be their first home match in the Premier League. And, similar happened up at Forest, at the start of last season. We could end up being their first home game, which... What's that mean? I'd be very surprised if we go out there and win that. It'll be a similar story to Forest. And then I think we go into September and we've got Liverpool away. You don't know what Liverpool are going to be coming up with, and I think that's where the pressure is already on. Then the first game of the season, looking ahead, and we'll all be thinking, Nigel, we ain't going to Brighton and winning, and it puts the pressure on going down to Bournemouth. And if we can get those 3 points on the board at Bournemouth in the first game, that might give us the confidence then to go on and surprise us. We have to start quick, as Mike just said, Nigel.
Definitely, but like I say, I keep on saying it. Got to play attacking football. It's so depressing watching us sometimes. Honestly, do you know what? When I was at that final, and did you see how quick Fiorentina were whipping the ball around? You know what? Everyone's going, "Oh yeah, we beat them." Mate, I thought they was the better team. I honestly do. I thought the way they was whipping it about, they was making us look like mugs.
Yeah.
He was there actually watching it. The way they got the ball and they picked the ball up and they was whipping it around. And that fella they had, Amarat, what was his name, the Moroccan guy?
Yeah.
Right. He was all over the park, and their football was really good. The only reason we beat them is because their defence is crap.
Yeah.
That's the only reason we beat them, because I tell you what, they out-footballed us all the whole game. I don't know anyone who was there will tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
And we were dreadful as well, and I think there wasn't.
No, we just couldn't get the ball. Though. We couldn't get the ball. They was too quick for us. They was first to everything. They was quick, and we was whinging. I know they was falling over and getting, the typical Italians falling over.
They got in our heads. That's what they did. They got in our heads.
They was getting to the ball first. Their passing was better. So we had a few quality players that we unlocked them, and you know what? We was lucky, mate. If that final had gone on, we'd have lost that because they was on us. They didn't give us an inch, mate. Honestly, it's really, when I was watching, I was thinking, "Oh my god, these are so much quicker than us."
Oh, they were quicker. They were fast to the ball, and we don't really discuss it now, and we sort of got caught up in the ecstasy of it all. But in the end, I did think we were lucky. Let's take some of your comments. Sean says, I think Palhinha might get a better offer. World Pro Saints want crazy money for a quite a limited player. West Ham, the best sort of level club. He could get offers from. If we pay more than 30 for him, I think that's criminal, to be honest. I really do. Because of the amount of money we spent last summer, I think Sullivan's going to be reluctant as it is. So if we spend £30 million on Ward Prowse, I fear.
They see the Rice money. They see the Rice money, and they're like, "Oh, they got a bit of money to spend. We'll whack 20 million on them."
Exactly. That's it. Everyone's going to do it. Everyone with a bit of common sense is going to say, right then, they've just had 100 million come through the door. We're going to bump it up 10 million and just say, that's what they'll do. Helen says, trouble is, clubs know we will have Rice money. She said, exactly. There we go. I didn't even read that before I put it on the screen, but there, that is bang on. Fremer says, did anyone see the discussion on AFTV with Nicky and Robbie? Really wound me up. I did watch a bit of it. I did, yeah. Nicky stay composed because that bloke was doing my head in as well, just watching it. But yeah, fair play to Nicky, because he could have lost his ride properly and he didn't. But the self-entitlement of these Arsenal fans are really starting to get on my nerves. I know Twitter isn't a real sort of reflection of a fan base, but they're really starting to get on my nerves, Mike.
Yeah, some of them are okay. The guy who was outside the stadium when, I was there that night when we drew, and they was having a bit of a scuffle outside around their Arsenal TV. And it was funny, but one of them, he's all right. He's talked some sense, but there's a few idiots amongst them lot. There really is some clueless idiots and some real entitled. Oh, unbelievable! They're going 1 minute. They're going, oh, we got Rice, showing him with his shirt on and all that. And then they said, oh, that's too much money. We're not paying that for him. He's rubbish. Typical Arsenal fans. Just I really hope he doesn't go there, to be totally honest, because I think he can do better than that. I got a feeling that Arsenal, right, won't do as well as they did last year.
Oh, I agree.
I can see teams like Chelsea and Liverpool improving, and pushing them. Even Tottenham, who got no European football.
That's the big thing of it as well. That's the big thing, because they're going because they chucked away the FA Cup, they chucked away the Carabao Cup, and in the end, they last 16 quarterfinals, they got booted out of the Europa League. They're now playing in the Champions League, which is going to be tougher. They breezed through the group stage of the Europa League last year, as did we in the previous seasons. They won't be able to do that in the Champions League. They'll have priority on the Champions League, and their league form will drop next season. Nigel, I'm convinced.
I can see that Arsenal won't have a brilliant season next year. Brighton playing in Europe may struggle a little bit.
Take a toll, yeah.
And I can obviously, like I said, see your Chelsea's and your Liverpool's will improve, you know, and they may find it a little bit tough. And
I do think as well, Nigel, Spurs will improve as well. I think they signed that Kulusevski bloke up permanently, and it looks like by all accounts Kane is going to stay. I think Spurs will do well next season with no Thursday, Sunday football.
Well, I mean, much as we dog Kane off, there's a loyal bloke for you, isn't there? Who stayed with the team, and he will be a Tottenham legend. He's fair play. I'll take me out of to him. Declan, you know what? I feel he has got to go to another team to improve. I think Arsenal would be a really good team of young players, the same sort of age, who he could gel with and be really good. But I just resent it a little bit now because of the way that, like you said, the Arsenal fans are like, you know, they've changed, didn't they? They've gone from being like, do you know what I mean? They think they're it now because they finished. I mean, it's just, I just resent him going there now. I can't help. I'd rather see him go to Man City. Yeah. You know, if you're going to win things, go there, mate. So I think he could go terribly wrong for Declan if he goes to Arsenal. Imagine going to Arsenal and then winning nothing. You ain't really gained anything, have you? And then, do you know what I mean? What's he gained? Look, it ain't like the old days where a player, Declan's already one of the first names on the England team sheet. And a lot of West Ham players in the past have thought to themselves, you'll probably back me on this, Mike, a lot of players that weren't playing for England because they played for West Ham. That's the only reason they didn't get in the England team. But this kid, Declan's just got in the England team and he's in it. He don't need to go to a bigger team to be a great footballer and to win things with England. And you know what? We've won something. I'd love him to stay, but I don't want him to go to Arsenal, though, if I'm honest. That's gonna.
No. I don't think any West Ham fan wants to go to Arsenal.
Bunch of arseholes, isn't it?
No, the issue with it as well is, to be honest, if he goes to Arsenal, I hope they win nothing. To be honest with you, I hope they win absolutely nothing because that would make me laugh. Because them lot are convinced now, and Nigel, you said it. They think they finished second now. They think they're the business. They think they're going to go and get to the back end of the Champions League and be trying to push City again next season. There's no chance on hell that they'll be challenging for the title again next season. In my opinion, they just won't be up there. They had their chance and they bottled it. Right, and I just can't see, and we've heard personal terms and I nearly agreed with Rice and Arsenal. It baffles me, to be honest with you. It really baffles me. With a bloke that's come out in various interviews and said he wants to win trophies, I can tell you right now, he's not going to win those at Arsenal. He might win the odd FA Cup, but apart from that, he's not going to go to Arsenal and win the Champions Leagues and the Premier Leagues that he'll win if he goes to Man City. Yes, we all like Man City a bit more than we like Arsenal. That's obvious, but I think he's making the wrong decision by going to Arsenal, in my opinion. But that's just me. But anyway, right, we will end on a lighter note. Has anyone sold their car this week? To Lucas Paqueta. Well, thank you very much indeed, everybody, for watching. Content coming up. There'll be a Monday morning chat tomorrow morning. I don't know what I'm going to talk about yet. I'll find something. But there'll be a Monday morning chat. I'll try and do a lunchtime news show tomorrow as well, if anything appears. But until then, Nigel, Mike, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Jake. See you later, guys. See you, Nigel.
From us. Coming Lions, and we'll see you soon right here on West Ham Unofficial. Thank you very much. Rice, don't go to Arsenal, for Christ's sake. See you soon. Bye-bye. Cheers.